ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it, I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'm never going back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Racesport TV Friday primetime heads down under. Oran Park, Australia plays host to this round of the Skip Barber Racing Series. I am Connery Maddock, and as ever, I'm joined by Ryan Walker here for this particular round of this Racesport TV Friday primetime broadcast. There's the track information up on screen for you now. 25 degrees Celsius is the track temperature, just slightly above the air temp here, as it is in the morning hours here at Oran Park. Clear skies as well, not a cloud to be seen. The wind's picking up just a little bit, up to 22, 21 kilometers an hour here. A 2.6 kilometer circuit to be dealing with here for these drivers. Here's the schedule up on the screen. We're solidly inside the second half of the season now. An absolutely brilliant race last time around at Phillip Island, where we had that run to the line between a couple of cars, but once again, as is so often, Simon Edwards comes away with the checkered flag. He's in this race here today as well, and looks to make it a couple on the bounce for him in terms of race wins. Next week, we'll be heading to Circuit Park Zandvoort for the last race in January. But Ryan, as these guys are coming towards the end of their qualifying procedure, Oran Park is not really a track that a lot of people are all too used to. So for a lot of these drivers, certainly a learning experience here for this week of official racing.
Yeah, absolutely. These drivers, the Skip Barber series doesn't really race here that much, probably once every couple of seasons, but it's still a great track. We know it used to host the V8 supercars in real life until the track unfortunately got shut down, I believe. But at least in the virtual world tonight, we will be able to watch the Skip Barber series, and I think we should be in for an absolutely awesome race.
Let's see what we have in store then. You have the provisional qualifying results on the left-hand side of your screens. Currently, it's Gerardo Ramos. There's provisional pole position with Valerino on the front row with him. We see Fogarini out there. He is yet to set a lap time here. He's coming towards the end of the first sector right now, rounding his way through turn 4, through turn 5, coming up onto the sort of bridge section, turn 6. Very fast right-hander as you head towards the middle part of the lap right now. A lot of these corners, very, very fast, sort of medium to high-speed corners here coming through this middle sector. And Fogarini dealing with it well at the moment, but he is, about a minute from the end of the session here. Another little sweeper coming towards the final corner. Slam on the anchors for here, and he's able to drift that car in and bind the wall on the exit. It does come up on you rather quickly out of that final corner. Fogarini across the line then, and that's his final lap of qualifying. Good enough to get himself a top 10 start here today. 40 seconds left remaining in the session though. Lucas de Belder, he's not set a qualifying time, and it doesn't look like he will by the end of this particular qualifying session, and everyone else out there is basically run out of laps, so this will be your qualifying grid, Ryan.
Yep, absolutely. As just checking the strength of field as well, it's not as high as it has been in the previous rounds, but it's still a decent strength of field, the 4,038, so yeah, I think it should be a good race today, and the likes of Simon Edwards, Anthony Catt and Sar Sargola, so Still some quick names out there, and there could be ones to keep an eye on this evening.
Could well be. Time has expired in qualifying. We'll check on over to the race session, but here is your starting grid for this week's edition of Race Sport TV Friday Primetime. Pole position goes to the number 5, Gerardo Ramos. At the very front of the field, Edwin Valerino starts on that front row. Thomas Simon in P3. Simon Edwards, winner last time out. He starts in 4th place here today. Anthony Catt starts 5th, and he's always been the one that can work his way from the back of the field. So let's see what he can do when he starts at the very front. Sasha Gole in P6. Johan Lagudère in P7. Jan Tent in P8. Daniele Fogherini in P9. Andy Tetley in the 10th spot. Gonza Garcia in 11th place, Jan Roz in 12th, Ricardo Oliveira in P13, Alexis Fico P14, Florian Minkwitz in P15, Ralsgun, Zazo, Damcola and Debelda round out your 19 car field here today. We are just waiting for one car to get themselves to the starting grid, and that will be the car of Simon Edwards and someone towards the back of the field as well. So just a couple of moments before we can get this race started. Drivers taking themselves now to the starting grid, and we've got around about minimum 30 seconds before we can get this race started here. But as we get all those cars up and ready, Ramos going to be pole position, but not inside line for the first corner. You can see him in that yellow Barber car. So if Valerino gets a good launch here, then he can potentially nip himself down the inside at turn 1. But let's see what happens. We're green flag racing here at Oran Park, and it's not the good start required for Valerino to challenge your race leader, so he'll have to step back in line, get the draft all the way in towards turn number 1. Battle for P4, though, between Edwards and Anthony Catt might be the main feature into the first turn. Get it slowed down now, and you can see that Anthony Catt actually going to end up losing positions here. Simon Edwards has been able to get that position defended, and now he has to battle side by side with Sasha Gole into turn number 2. Gole trying to go around the outside here, but not finding much success out there. Pretty clean start for the front part of your field here. It's through the first sector. You see Fogherini in the background in the process of losing position to Andy Tetley as they go up and over the bridge for the first time. 20-lap event, and lap number 1, Ryan, seems to have gotten off to a good start.
Yep, absolutely. It looks like everyone's managed to make it through lap 1 so far without any issues, which is a good thing. So, yeah, I agree with you, Conrad. It should be an interesting battle with Simon Edwards, Carter and Sasha Gole. The quickest guys at Phillip Island last week, I think it was. And yeah, 20-lap race, so it should be exciting to watch.
Riding on board with your race leader right now, the rear view, you can see Edwin Valerino in that white car, just keeping himself in the tow, coming down that front stretch. And you can see Simon going very, very deep there in that number 11 third place car, looking to try and gain a bit of ground into turn 1, but not going to be successful, and actually almost runs into the back of Valerino on that occasion. But everyone else behind heads up driving, able to see the danger there, and everyone keeps it together here in this first train of cars, which extends all the way pretty much throughout your entire field at the moment. No early separation we're seeing here like we see at some other racetracks. Everyone keeping themselves in contention. We had Lucas de Belda, I believe, start from the pit lane, so he remains in P number 19 here, trying to continue on in his way. He's basically here for the SR at this point and pick up a couple bits of iRacing from retirements, but there's been none so far here, Ryan.
Yeah, quite surprised, really. Everyone's managed to keep going for the first 2 laps, and as we ride on board with Simon Edwards at the moment in P4, we know how aggressive Simon can be, so he might try and make some moves early, or maybe think different and just stick behind these guys in front of him. But it wouldn't surprise me if Simon goes to, or tries to make some moves early, because he always likes to try and get to the front as quickly as possible.
He doesn't tend to put in a stellar performance in qualifying. He does good enough. He gets top 5 starts and everything like that. But when it comes to the race, he still has work to do for him to try and wrestle the race lead way. But the thing is, he's done that the last couple of times here on Friday Prime Time, so there's no reason why he can't do it again. His race pace seems exemplary in these sorts of events. He needs to do it again here at Oran Park. Careful not to track out too wide. As dips a couple, 2 of those tires into the grass and actually has to slow up a little bit. That has caused a little bit of separation, and you can see directly ahead here, about 3 cars down the line from where Anthony Cat is. You see Valerino and Simon get very close for P number 2. Simon seems to be much more confident on the brakes here. They're going very, very deep into almost every single corner, and seems like Valerino, he's been spooked here, and now Simon can go towards the inside and try and get this pass done. We're seeing the view of Anthony Cat of this duel in towards turn number 1. Simon gets back in line though, has allowed Ramos to get away slightly at the front of the field, but hasn't broken the draft by any means. But that number 11 seeming very, very quick at this early portion of the race.
Absolutely, Simon's he's been kind of as we've got issues further back in the pack.
Oh, we do. Number 19 has had a problem, and the number 9 as well. That's Jan Tent. We'll see what has happened here in towards turn number 1, because I didn't quite catch it myself on the live pictures, but we'll get to see the view from up above. Jan Tent in towards turn number 1, and just a bit of a real lockup, I believe. They're actually catching out a car behind. That's Borja Zarzo into the back of him, and Zamcola really came in hot into that as well. Had to take a little bit of a spin, but he does have a broken left front wheel. We'll see it on board with him. Down in towards turn number 1, loses it, seeing the danger ahead, and bang, that's broken the front left suspension there, and he, unfortunately for him, can't continue. Broken front right suspension there for Goon as well. We'll see exactly what happened to him. He came hot into that as well, so a lot of drivers guilty of just seeing what's happened ahead there and basically making the same mistake.
It's an easy mistake to make into turn 1. You can lose the rear in turn 1 because you're still braking and turning technically in the middle of the corner. But so it's an easy mistake to make, but it just looked like everyone was going for a bit of synchronized spinning. Yeah,
it basically everyone following in each other's tire tracks there and making the same mistakes into turn 1. But you quite rightfully mentioned that turn 1 is pretty tricky here. That left-hand kink right before it should technically be called turn 1, but isn't. It's the title one is turn number 1, but there we go. We can't get onto corner naming schemes already. It's not an endurance broadcast, but Thomas Simon right now riding on board with them as they head their way through towards those final couple of corners, and they've sort of not really been all that scared to be aggressive with Valerino here, but they still haven't been able to work their way by. But this time might just be the chance. They've gotten themselves a pretty good run out of the final corner. You see Ramos actually going towards the far left-hand side, and actually Simon's going to be able to dip into the draft a little bit on the way into that left-hand kink, and looking to try and find the breaking point into turn 1, and that's Thomas Simon up into P2.
That was a good move from Simon. He managed to get a little bit of the slipstream from Ramos in front of him and get the move done. Heading down to turn 1, managed to pull it off and up into P2.
Forward progress has been made. Next one on the list for Simon is your race leader of Gerardo Ramos, who hasn't really had to do all that much defending so far in this race, but we're still early stages on lap number 6 of 20. And Simon definitely going to be the driver that's on the charge right now. A bit of a slide coming up towards the initial point of those S's there, but still going to be okay. The new tyre model on these Skip Barber cars. Oh, Valerino running a little bit wide there out into the dirt, and he's going to lose a little bit of momentum into the final corner. That might gift Simon Edwards a chance at making his way by into the first corner this time around. You can see the slipstream train just snaking its way across the starting grid. Edwards closing in on Valerino, so it might be 2 positions locked in 2 laps for Valerino if he's not too careful. He will be safe into towards turn number 1 here, but Edwards goes very, very deep and basically sizing up his opponent.
As someone's off in turn 2. Turn 1, sorry.
That's a big accident there. Andy Tetley heavy into the barriers. And we'll get to see it again here. He was side by side down the pit straight with Fogarini into turn 1, and I think this is the danger of turn 1 here. You see him go for the move down the inside, and as soon as he gets to the turn-in point for the left-hand kink, the car just breaks away from him. There we go, struggling to get that car slowed down, and narrowly avoids the car ahead as well. Nose into the barriers. That is not a very pretty-looking skip, Barber.
Yeah, he just lost it into turn 1, and he might have just carried too much speed, lost the rear, and he was so close to taking someone else out, like you mentioned. That was a moment to kind of empty your bowels.
Oh, Garcia, that was mad props to Garcia there, because that was absolutely insane. You can see that he was well aware of the situation, looking behind him in those wake mirrors, and he's able to see that car coming at him at a rate of knots, and fantastic reactions to try and avoid that. That was awesome. Meanwhile, back at the front of the field, Simon locked onto the back of Ramos here, coming up towards what is basically the sort of the club layout pits there, as they head their way through towards the end of the first sector, and Simon didn't get that good of a run off there. Ramos a little bit better coming through the exit of that section, but the thing is, you can afford to have these little errors here if you're Simon, because you can just, as with most circuits in these Skip Barber cars, the draft basically is your insurance policy.
Absolutely. I was about to say as well, there's only really one straight at this track. I see that the longest straight, the only one straight really is the home straight, and if you can get a good run in the exit of the final corner, you can stick in the slipstream and possibly try and get a good run as Ramos moves to the left to try and defend.
Does couldn't go that much further left there, right up against the grass, and back in line as well to take the entry to the corner. That was leaving it a bit close there. Not much between the 2 cars into turn 1. As we look at what has happened here to Jan Ros. He has a couple of cars ahead of him. That's a big slide, big spin for the number 17. And the rejoin is fine. There we go. So he's able to get himself back going. You always have to look out for those rejoins, Ryan.
Yeah, I was watching the replay of that rejoin when he went to spin round, and I thought he was going to collect another car that was going by, but luckily there was no issues, and managed to get going again, and he's still in the race as we ride back on board with Simon, still behind our leader Ramos.
Yeah, Ramos, he knows what the plan is here. Simon, he's going to possibly go defensive all the way to the inside once again, coming down the pit straight to try and force Simon to go the long way around. Simon, very good run though, out of the final turn. And just sits within that slipstream towards the outside. They'll have to go across the start finish line. And now Ramos, what can he do in terms of defending that inside here? Simon carrying a lot of momentum around there. Ramos, as he missed the... he just about makes the corner there. Turn number 1. And so that is the interesting thing. Into turn 1, when you take a compromised line, it's so sketchy because, like you said before, even on a normal racing line, you're still turning while braking. And if you come in a bit shallower, that's just going to exacerbate that problem.
That was nice car control from Ramos. He managed to save that, and I thought for a second he was going to lose it in the middle of the corner, but managed to save it and still in the lead. But looking at his pack at the moment, Connery, these guys managed to leave the rest of the field behind.
Yeah, you can see that this is currently a 6-car pack. Sasha Gorley bringing up the rear at the moment, so 6 drivers in contention for podium positions at the moment. Coming up towards the halfway point of this race, and Ramos still leads it, has done since the very start. Qualified on pole position, but it's the driver that qualified P3 that's hot in his heels at the moment. Again, defensive towards the inside for turn number 1. Again, long way around for Simon. Ramos, you better get used to braking like this for turn number 1, because it looks like he's going to do it every lap now.
Every time I watch Simon as well, is we've got a replay of Ricardo de Oliveira. Something's happened to him. As he just touched the grass and lost it.
Yep, out into the gravel, and there's a wide open field on sort of the infield section there. So he's not going to hit any barriers, and he can get that car spun back around and rejoin the race. But back to your leading pack as they head through that Yokohama bridge. And riding on board with Valerino at the moment. He's keeping his distance for now compared to the 2 race leaders, it seems. He's also got Edwards and Anthony Catt directly behind him. And they're not going to be all that patient for much longer, especially if they're seeing the gap to the 2 race leaders start to edge out.
Yeah, I think if you're these guys, like Simon Edwards and Anthony Catt, and you're seeing the 2 leaders pull away in front of you, I think at this stage of the race it's time to start making moves if you want to try and catch up with them.
Yeah, no move this time for Simon for the race leads, so Ramos can take his normal line into the corner. There's contact behind though. Anthony Catt has Sasha Gola has made contact with Anthony Catt, and Gola has a broken front nose cone at the moment, and you can see on the replay here they were stacked up relatively close coming to the left-hand kink. We're riding on board with Sasha Gola, and into the corner, and front to rear contact. Gola not slamming on the anchors enough, arguably, and you can see that nose cone broken off, and he just has to deal with that for now. But yeah, that was just a simple case of a simple front to rear contact into turn 1 there, Ryan.
Yeah, it looks like Sasa just carried too much speed into turn 1. Just carried too much speed and braked too late, and just unfortunately ran into the back of Catt. And as a result of that, he's got front nose damage, which will definitely affect the handling and straight line speed of the car for the rest of the race. As back up at the front, Ramos and Simon are still going at it.
They are. Ramos to the middle of the circuit. Wants to take as wide a line into the corner as possible so that he can get on the brakes a lot more effectively. He's somehow making this corner every single time with the compromised line. It's brilliant to see. Not the fastest way around the circuit, but definitely required to hold on to P1. There's a slight gap that Simon was thinking about heading themselves down into the inside towards through turn 2 there, but it's a gap that opened up and closed as quickly as it opened up.
Yeah, I think Simon's getting a bit frustrated now, but he can't get by Ramos at the moment. But he can't afford to make any silly decisions or to try and overtake in a silly place. Otherwise, Valerino and Edwards will catch up to him. Yeah,
you can see the top 8 up on screen. Gonza Garcia going to be the driver that's right at the very end of that one in P8 right now. He started P11, so he's gained a couple of positions to solidify himself inside the top 10. Still riding on board though with that number 11 car. They've had a couple of attempts already into turn 1, and this is going to be another one of them. But Ramos has held on each and every time. Up and under attempt into the entry to the corner here. They're both so late on the brakes into there. A bit of a puff of smoke from Ramos. And now Simon can make it side by side into turn 1. It's still an outside line though for that number 11 car. And Ramos is still able to hold on to position. These guys are playing a game of cat and mouse into turn 1. Who can brake the latest? Who can get themselves slowed down for the corner?
This is great defensive driving from Ramos at the moment to hold Simon behind, and also Valerino as well, and Simon Edwards. So this is a great defensive drive at the moment. And every time I watch Simon on board heading down into turn 1 on the outside, I keep thinking he's trying to make that an outside move into turn 1, but there's no way he could pull that off because the corner's just not big enough.
Yeah, it's must be so frustrating. Look how deep into the final turn. It's almost basically pressing that nose right into the back of Ramos's car there, as we had the perfect view from the gearbox on Ramos's car, and now again another attempt. How many times do you have to try this before you get the fruits of your labor? It might work this time around. It kept towards the outside, but Ramos still too strong on that shorter distance around the circuit. And now Simon going to take a big wide arc into turn 2. Ramos still pretty scared at this point. A bit of bumping and banging. There's a piece of car that has flown off there. I think that's from the very front nose of Valerino's car as we were riding on board with him at the time. But these guys now getting the elbows out.
Yep, I would say it's definitely the time to get the elbows out and start battling away, because we've only got about 5 laps remaining. So as you say, Connery, elbows out and down, time to get down to business and try and make a move to try and get into the race lead.
Here we go then. Lap number 5. We're coming towards the end of lap number 15 at this point. So yeah, just a couple more to go. Again, Simon's so deep into that final turn, but they haven't been able to get by on any attempt just yet. Ramos, if he's able to come away with this race win, it'll be one of the most brilliant defensive efforts I've ever seen, especially with someone as aggressive as Simon is behind him. Again, very late into turn 1, but Ramos makes the apex every single time. Simon, though... Ryan, do you think Simon's going to come away with this, or is Ramos going to have this defended all the way to the end?
It's tough to say. I think... like I've already mentioned, Ramos is putting up a great defensive drive, and even though the line he's using into turn 1, the defensive line into turn 1, he's still managing somehow to get that car stopped under braking and hit the apex. But if Simon wants to try and win this, he's got to hope for a mistake from Ramos, but he's also got to be careful that Valerino and Edwards are behind as well, and if these two guys up at the front slip up, either those two behind could take the win.
Coming towards 4 laps to go then. Still big question marks when it comes to this race lead. You see Valerino and Edwards, they've just been waiting in the wings here. And this has been the case, especially for Edwards, through most of the races that he's done so far. And, you know, the past 2 races, he has been able to come away with the race win by this strategy. So certainly keep an eye on that car 4th in line right now, as these pads still duel into turn 1. And again, a big slide from Ramos. Simon looking for blood in the water when it comes to that sort of mistake. But the thing is, he's compromised himself. Valerino will now be able to get through into P2. Solidifies position with an aggressive move. Edwards also was looking to try and get by, but he remains in P4 for now. And now Valerino is the man that goes chasing after a race leader.
Yeah, it looks like Ramos has made a mistake and missed the apex slightly, and that had to slow up more than usual, which caught Simon out and has allowed Valerino up into P2 as we take a look at the replay right now.
Yep, we will. Into the braking zone. Yeah, you see Ramos, big slide there, but Simon had to back out of that. Didn't feel comfortable with the amount of space that was on the inside there. I think there was a car's width, but those margins too tight for 4 laps to go. Maybe on the last lap wouldn't have been so forgiving. But now, on to lap number 3. Valerino can actually go all the way to the inside here. He's not following in the draft your race leader, which is an interesting decision, shall we say. But Ramos is going to be fine at the race lead right now. Still a big stack up into that final corner, but Valerino in the early part of the race here, Ryan, he wasn't able to keep up really with Ramos's pace, but later on in the race maybe is where he starts to come alive and starts to become more effective, and maybe Valerino can take this race win now.
Yeah, quite possibly. Also, you said about the not sticking in the slipstream as well. Yeah, you've got to remember with these cars as well, if the temperature starts getting too high, it's a big possibility the engine can blow.
Yeah, that's the important point. I haven't seen it in very recent times, but I remember, especially these Skip Barber cars, they used to have a habit of spontaneous detonation when they overheated. But yeah, that's certainly a thing to keep in mind. But Valerino coming up to 2 laps to go here through the final corner. Hasn't quite been as effective as Simon was trying to challenge a race leader. Maybe it'll change again. And again, he's stepping out of the slipstream here. I'm not sure what the thought process is here for Valerino.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Maybe he's trying to pull off line and maybe try and distract Ramos and try and get him to make a mistake as Ramos runs a little bit wide but manages to hold the position. But yeah, these top three are all close together.
Edwards has set the fastest lap. He's the guy fourth in line in this train, right at the very back. So he's basically getting a triple slipstream at this point. So he's able to set those brilliant laps. But now 2 laps to go. He has to get a move on here if he wants to finish on the podium or even get all 3 passes done and get himself to the race lead. It would be an unlikely one, but we've seen weirder things happen before here in this series. Coming up to the final sector now. Ramos still in the race lead. He's held on to it for dear life through this entire race. It's not been the easiest race for Ramos. He has 1 more to go to try and take this race win. It would be an absolutely brilliant defensive race if he's able to come away with it. But now Valerino, he's going to tuck inside the slipstream this time around and try and get that run into turn 1 for the final time. Valerino, big wide arc being taken into the corner, continues around the outside here. Can he find a line off? I don't think he's able to. Simon's also looking aggressive here, and that might be Ramos's saving grace if Simon can distract Valerino enough here. Coming towards the very end of this first sector of the lap then. Order is still Ramos, Valerino, Simon, and then Simon Edwards at the very tail end of this. Up over the bridge then, through the middle sector. Ramos, I believe, has enough of a gap at this point, so pending any errors, he should be okay for the race win. Simon has a run of speed into the final couple of corners, though, and might just be able to wrestle P2 away right at the very end of things here. It's a decent gap between P1 and P2, but P2 and P3, that is still very, very close. Big dive from Valerino into the final corner. Simon can't find a line off unless they're able to get the slipstream pass. But Gerardo Ramos, what a brilliant effort to come away with the race win here in Racebot TV Friday prime time at Oran Park. Pole position, race win, but it wasn't as easy as that sounds.
Yeah, that was a fantastic drive from Ramos to hold off the pack for most of the race. Yeah, for me, he's got to be driver of the day for that, simply.
That was awesome stuff from the driver that came top of both sessions. You can see there's a bit of contact there at the start finish line between 2 cars. You see the number 18 head their way through. That's Ricardo de Oliveira. It was a Rails Gun that had a bit of contact there coming towards the flag. But the thing is, these are your official race results from Oran Park. Gerardo Ramos from Club Iberia, he wins here by 4.5 tenths of a second over Edwin Valerino. Tamas Simon comes home in P3, but an error meant they kind of lost P2 right at the very, very end there. Simon Edwards, it's a P4 for him, so not able to continue on his winning streak. Sasha Golet, he was battling in that sort of second pack through the vast majority of the second half of that race. He comes home with a top 5 finish. Anthony Cap in P6. Johan Lorigaderi in P7. Gonza Garcia in P8. Jan Tent comes home P9. Daniele Fogarini in that 10th spot. Florian Minkwitz in P11. Borja Zazo P12. Jan Roz in 13th place. I see De Oliveira in P14. Zabelda P15. Vico 16th. Gun in 17th place. And you see Zamcola in P number 18. And Andy Tetley will be last place here. P number 19 of 19. But with the racing done here for Racesport TV Friday Prime Time, don't go away because we have the post-race show coming up just after this. Another enthralling race in the Skip Barber Racing School Series here on Raceport TV Friday primetime. I think we have to get used to that because the last few races have been absolutely brilliant. I am Connery Maddock. I'm joined by Ryan Walker for the post-race show here. And I did mention it during the broadcast, Ryan, that Gerardo Ramos, that was one of the best defensive performances I have ever seen from a race leader. It's certainly up there. Maybe not the very, very best, but one of the best that I've seen.
That was absolutely fantastic. A fantastic defensive drive from Ramos. He kept his head, kept his cool for most of the race with that pack behind him. Then he never cracked under pressure. He ran wide a little bit at times in turn one, but kept it together and managed to make it to the end and won the race. And that was just for me at the moment this season anyway. That was probably the best drive I've seen so far in this series.
Yeah, it was brilliant to witness. You see a refresher of the official race results up on screen for you now. Your winner last couple of times out, Simon Edwards, only coming home with a P4 here today. Do you think that's just a little bit of a blip in form and he'll be back next week, or is it something else?
I think it's maybe just the nature of the track as well. Maybe Simon was kind of for this race anyway, just decided to just think of the long game and just play it safe and get to the finish, and he still managed to finish in a good position. So yeah, I think it's nothing to be ashamed about from Simon.
Yeah, still a solid finish up in P4, and of course you see the rundown of the rest of the runners as well. But with that over and done with, we can actually have a look to see where we'll be going for next week here on the Raceport TV Friday primetime broadcast, because we're getting towards, we're inside the halfway, second half of the season right now. And next time around, we'll be going to Circuit Park Zandvoort. Of course, the track in the real world that's going through a bit of a renovation right now with that new banked final corner. But of course, the previous version of Zandvoort as well, and the current version we had up until this new renovation, is still absolutely fantastic track to drive. Personally, for me, if I load up, want to just do a couple of laps here on iRacing and just have a bit of fun, the circuits that I tend to load up are Suzuka and Zandvoort.
Yeah, similar to me. By the Skip Barber, if I ever do any laps in it, I normally take it round a track like Sebring, or even yourself, Connery, like Zandvoort. It's just two awesome tracks with the Skip Barber, and I think next week should be an absolute epic thriller.
Of course, a little bit later on in the season, we have the appearance of one of the most recent circuits on the iRacing service. You have the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya as your penultimate round of the season. Of course, we have the finale at Silverstone National as well. But before we get to that point, we also have another British track, which we always love to see because we're vast majority British commentators here at Raceport TV. So whenever we see a British circuit, we go, "Ooh, I know that."
Yeah, I'm the same. It's Alton Park. I know it's a famous track in real life, and I love it. I love it in iRacing, and also in real life because of the British Touring Car Championship around there. It's just absolutely awesome to watch.
And the Skip Barbers around there should be awesome to watch as well. But that is going to be all that we have time for here on Raceport TV. Another brilliant race in the Skip Barber machines we've just seen here at Oran Park. But join us next week because we head to the Netherlands. We head to Zandvoort. I've been Connery Maddock. That's been Ryan Walker. Join us same place, same time next week. Goodbye.